everyone. Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are at present. I'll wait till we connect to you. Hi, Claire. Thanks for joining. Hi, guys. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here. So today we are having a very special guest on a show, and his name is Dr. Sam Madeira. And I have to say, we have been talking a lot about MS and thyroid problems and the gut health and so many other things. But this topic, specifically about hormones, we are taking it for the first. So this is going to be really interesting. This is going to be very exciting to know what hormones are and how does it really affect MS. MS is affected by various things, but hormone is a different topic by itself, and how can it affect MS is what we are going to learn today. So if we see, hormones are essential for reproduction. It is also fundamental to all the symptoms of our bodies. And how does it affect the inflammation? How does it affect our body movement and everything what is going on in the body? Today we are going to learn about it. I have already sent a request to Dr. Sam. I'm waiting for him to accept the request, and then we can start the session. Till then, I hope you all had a good week, and I hope you guys have big plans for the weekend. But whatever plans you have, please stay safe and just take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. Yes, we have a problem with COVID still. It's going on. So wear a mask, sanitize your hands, and keep safe. Hi, doctor. I've sent you the request. Can you please accept this? I can see Dr. Sam is already here with us. Wait for a second. Okay, guys, just 2 seconds, and Dr. Sam will be here with us shortly. Doctor, if you can just accept the request I've sent you. Okay. Or you can send me the request either ways to join. Yes. Yes, I have got a request. Yes, guys, I'm sorry for this week. Wait, I know this technical thing is a problem and we all have faces all the time. So that's okay. Okay, so I can see Queen Sprat writing, feeling good today. Very good. I'm so happy. You all should feel good, feel healthy, and just win over MS. Till the time I'm connected to Dr. Sam, yeah, so his internet is a little bad, so he's asking us to hold on. So before we start the session, I also would like to again remind you of the challenge that we have created for MS awareness, which is We Switch MS Challenge. And I hope you guys have loved that amazing concept and you all are participating in it. Please participate in that challenge. It's going to be very exciting, and a lot of special people are going to participate in that. Hi, Doctor. Good morning. Hello. Can you hear us? Hi. I think the internet is still a little bad.
Good morning.
Yes, yes. Now I can hear you. Yes. I think there's a lag. You're hearing me after some time.
Yeah, hold on. Let's see if we can. Is that better?
No, it's still, there's still a lag. I still can't see you.
Oh, okay.
I think it's getting better.
Is that better? I had to go outside. Yeah. I'm in
Absolutely.
Montana, so.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Are you outside your home? Is it okay for you to be outside?
Yeah, I'm wearing a jacket. It's about 30 degrees. Yep.
Okay, but thank you so much for accepting this request at this short notice. And you can see there's so many people who have already joined us. All very, very excited for this session.
Awesome.
So yes, doctor, so we know that hormones is a very fundamental part of our body and takes care of all the actions going on. But how does it really affect someone with chronic illness is what we want to understand today.
Yeah. So if typically with MS, you want to rule out viral infections like Epstein-Barr, and there are a bunch of other viral infections, herpes, family viruses. There's a huge number of them, or quite a number of them that you want to test for. And those could be part of that root cause. And what I've seen with, in particular, with Epstein-Barr virus, I can speak specifically to personally because I've had reactivated mono and I've treated patients with reactivated mono, which is EBV, Epstein-Barr. That can cause chronic fatigue and that can depress your hormones, that can cause hormone deficiencies and chronic fatigue syndrome with Lyme disease and mold. So you want to rule out Lyme, mold, and EBV and other viruses that are similar to it that all potentially could cause autoimmune diseases like MS. And if someone has those with low vitamin D, then they're gonna most likely gonna be more predisposed to getting MS. And if you already have MS, then you want to optimize those hormones. There is some preliminary research that's come out in the last 3 to 5 years showing that specifically testosterone is basically great for brain inflammation and preventing things like dementia and neurodegenerative diseases. So you could extrapolate from that other hormones like progesterone we use for neuroinflammation post-concussion. So you can, use progesterone if you have low progesterone as a capsule compounded or from a conventional retail pharmacy. But you want to make sure you actually need it. You don't just pick up a bunch of hormones and start taking them or putting creams on or injecting them. So long story short, all those things need to be looked at. And I mean, that's what I do with my patients. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is also really promising for MS and brain health in general and post-stroke recovery. So there's a lot of things that could be used and beneficial, and a lot of things that people probably need to be looking at that they're not going to find looking at with their conventional neurologist. And I have a close friend, my best friend from high school is diagnosed with MS. And I just anecdotally, I found a really well-known neurologist for him. And I won't say what city, but he's really well known on the East Coast of the US. And he's apparently doing research. He's, I think, an MD and might have a master's or PhD as well. But the point is that I watched my friend go through many different immunosuppressive medications and have many relapses. And from my point of view, everything that they were doing was one big experiment. And I'm sure other people with MS have already experienced that. So I just want to kind of echo that, your frustrations are valid with where we are at in modern conventional medical science for what's happening or not happening with MS. And the NIH is doing more and more research into autoimmune diseases right now than cancer, actually. And there's a lot more federal money going to that research. However, with their model, they're going to be looking at ways to suppress the immune system and not optimizing the body's function. And why is the body attacking that part of the brain? Why isn't it attacking something else? So
Exactly. So that is a sad story. You are absolutely right that every MS warrior faces. It's very difficult to be in a body with MS. You don't know what's going to happen next, and you really need to be in safe hands, have good guidance, and know what is going on with you. And yes, thinking that someone is doing some experiments on you, which is valid for everyone, it seems nowadays. It's just that whatever suits you, you just want to be well in anyhow.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I don't have MS, but I've dealt with chronic Lyme co-infections myself and chronic fatigue syndrome and, kind of like a lot of things that could become MS.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information about Lyme becoming Parkinson's or MS. So if people haven't had these things ruled out, I would suggest getting some blood tests and
Yes.
getting a full EBV panel, Lyme, see what if the Lyme symptoms kind of match up or Lyme co-infection symptoms match up with someone who works with those things. And then the next step would be to look at all your hormones. This morning I posted about DHEA and meditation, which DHEA is androgen. It's a preliminary hormone to testosterone, and then testosterone becomes estrogen in both men and women. And DHEA has a lot of benefits for autoimmune diseases. So if your DHEA level is low, meditation, things like Qigong, yoga are all good for MS anyway,
Yes.
from what I've looked at. But also, taking DHEA, I haven't seen work as well as taking herbs that improve DHEA. So
Okay.
really working with someone who understands herbal medicine and naturopathic medicine or functional medicine so that they can really optimize those levels, because I've even had patients using compounded prescription DHEA cream before bed and applying it to, specific areas that are highly absorbable and, no improvement in DHEA levels. And they're not that, these people aren't that sick or stressed out. So, you take someone who has a chronic health condition, chronic autoimmunity for
Yes.
years, it's probably not going to do much for them. But if you get an herbal medicine or multiple herbal medicines targeting the HPA axis and working on that while working on the autoimmunity simultaneously, that could be helpful. There's also things like low-dose naltrexone, IV nutrient therapy. So it just depends, what your budget is, what your focus is, what's going on with the individual, and, what hormones are low. And then, just for general brain health, you also want to look at things like heavy metals. But obviously, vitamin D is probably the most important hormone because it's a vitamin, not a, it's called a vitamin, but it's actually a hormone.
Yes.
So,
Yes, and
yeah.
it's said that vitamin D has a major effect on MS. Most of the people with low vitamin D has MS, but yeah,
Yes.
it doesn't say it's a cause, but that is what is observed mainly.
Yeah. Yeah. In the research, I think it's like 80 to 85+% of the people that they tested vitamin D who had MS or diagnosed had very low vitamin D levels or close to zero. And in 2005, I moved from Arizona, sunny Arizona state, to Seattle, where there's no sun 10 months out of the year, basically. And I never had taken vitamin D in my life and was outside a lot. I biked everywhere in Arizona pretty much and where I lived. And I checked my vitamin D and it was 18, on that range where conventional medicine says 30 to 100, right? That they say is normal, which is still low. But, and then I had my MD check it again in Seattle. And I think it was like 32 because I had stopped taking vitamin D for a while in the winter.
Okay.
And my MD said, well, that's fine. And then I knew it wasn't fine to have a 32 vitamin D. You want for autoimmune disease. Yeah, it's just in normal range, right? So for hormones, you want to go for optimal range.
Exactly.
So getting it up to 60 to 80 for autoimmune disease is a good place. At least 50. At least get it up to 50 if you can. But vitamin D can be a lot more nuanced than just taking vitamin D. I mean, ideally you would be getting out in the sun every morning and then again in the afternoon before 3:30. Maybe using red light therapy can help with a lot of autoimmune conditions and pain. If you have pain from MS. I know that my friend has had pain in
Yes.
his hands, and he's a guitar player. So that was kind of how he discovered it. And
Okay.
unfortunately, a lot of doctors don't know how to diagnose MS, so it can be missed a lot. And that was his experience. And I'm sure people listening have that experience too.
Yes, so this is a major thing that every person faces, initially before diagnosis, that either they are misdiagnosed or they're undiagnosed. There's a very few percentage which says that, yes, I was diagnosed on time and so I got the treatment on time. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the major problems. MS has so many symptoms, it gets difficult to understand and diagnose. Well, Doctor,
Yeah,
I can see a lot of questions rolling in. If you don't mind, can I just read out one by one?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I can see one question by Queen's Brat, and she's written, "What is something good to utilize for energy? Something that
Something
gives
for
you a
energy,
yes,
just in general.
yes,
If you're not sleeping well, if you're not waking up rested, then you got to look at sleep hygiene
hmm,
and stress levels, because no matter what you take, if that's not in check, you're not going to have enough energy.
yeah,
So if you can look at that, look at a free cortisol pattern test through like Dutch Test has an adrenal panel that they test cortisol and DHEA and metabolize cortisol. That's a good place to start. You honestly, if you can afford it, I would get all of your hormones checked, and then start
mm-hmm.
working on sleep and exercise and stress management. And in Chinese medicine, they talk about like yin and yang balance, and I kind of label exercise as like yang exercise and yin exercise. So like yin exercise would be things like yoga and tai chi, qigong, nature walks, walking on the beach, meditation, and then
Mm-hmm.
yang would be more like weightlifting, vigorous running or hit training. And for a lot of people who are really deficient and chronically fatigued, you just want to do for until you have enough energy to do those other exercises, just do the yin exercises. And I know that's not what a lot of people probably want to hear, but especially for things like MS, you don't want to do a hit training every day or 3 times a week or 5 times a week and then deplete your whole adrenal system more. Your HPA axis will get more dysregulated. I was reading a research abstract this morning and they were talking about DHEA used with high intensity interval training for healthy not middle-aged, but like, 30 to 50-year-old men. And because the HIIT training depresses your DHEA and it jacks up your cortisol really high. So if you already have cortisol imbalance or you're not making enough cortisol, then you're going to just fall flat on your face. Cortisol is also an anti-inflammatory when it's in balance, but if you don't have enough, then you're going to have more flare-ups potentially of something like MS, and that exercise could flare you up. So especially if it's not if you've had past flare-ups that affect your hands and stuff like that. So um, it's just something to keep in mind. Everybody's different. I mean, some people may be able to weight train 3 times a week, and that actually really helps them. But a lot of people are overtraining, and that I see that often decrease your hormones. You need at least 1 or 2 rest days a week,
Okay.
and even if you can train heavily and you don't have MS. But most of us are already really pushing the limits. Like our tank is already running on empty, so to speak. So figuring out how to get a calming, slow walk in outside, away from your computer, away from TV once a day, and then doing something else that's going to at least stimulate some muscle, lean muscle mass, even if it's just lightweight workout at home. For mostly healthy people would be a good place to start. And if if you feel like your MS is mostly in remission and you and your doctor and personal trainer figure out a plan that's good for you, then that's what I would do. But a lot of people are overtraining, as I mentioned.
Yeah, so that's what it said. You should always listen to your body. Don't overexert yourself. That's a very valid point.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, I can see another question by Jean Skew. She's written, thoughts are pregnancy hormones effect on MS? Does pregnancy hormone affect on MS?
Pregnancy and MS?
Yeah, pregnancy hormones.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
I'm not, I don't work with pregnant patients,
yeah.
so I'm going to defer to doctors that specialize in pregnancy and
Yeah.
neonatal care and are functional doctors. But obviously hormones change when you get pregnant, and a lot of people feel better when they're pregnant. And
Mhm.
what I'll speak generally, what I've seen over and over again is women, usually it's after their second child, they have a lot of health problems and they've
Mm.
had triggered autoimmunity. So I see a lot of patients with thyroid autoimmunity,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it can even occur with women going into pregnancy. They already have Hashimoto's, for example, thyroiditis, which is low thyroid function. And then after their child, they have Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroidism. Those are
Mm.
the main causes of hypo and
Mm.
hyperthyroidism. So
Got it.
you want to work with somebody who can manage that and help you kind of put that into remission. And then I would just say, generally speaking, what I tell all of my patients is detox before you get pregnant, you know. And I don't mean that like drink a detox tea from your supermarket, but what
Mm.
I mean is like work with somebody, test yourself for actual toxins and heavy metals, get plastics out of your body, get a sauna, get a, if, infrared sauna may be too hot for someone with MS, but
Mm. Yes.
um, figure out ways to get it out of your body. I mean, hyperbaric chamber can help you if you're on specific herbal nutrients and things that can help push out toxins too. So basically, figure out if you have mold and stuff like that before you get pregnant, because once you're pregnant and breastfeeding, there's so many things that are contraindicated or theoretically contraindicated, even in natural medicine, like herbal medicines, especially. I mean, you can still take vitamin D and fish oil, but
Mm.
you're going to want to optimize all those things before you even get pregnant so that the pregnancy is as healthy as possible, the breastfeeding and the breast milk is as nutrient dense as possible, and so that your child is as healthy as possible. So we're being exposed to more and more plastics. I post a lot about this and how it affects men's hormones, but it's affecting all of us and all of our hormones, and really kind of scary if you think about it too hard. But basically, that's messing up all your hormones, brain health. It's suppressing hormones and uh, potentially carcinogenic. So, and that's all from polymers from oil. So, we weren't meant to drink anything extracted from oil. That's kind of obvious. But when you get it into a plastic and you microwave that in the oven,
Yeah.
that's doing all kinds of things to your body. And then if that gets into your child, they just found, I think it was last year, there was a report in the news where a mother's placenta was tested and showed that it was laden with lots of plastics. So, um, basically we're swimming in plastics before we can even take our first breath, and that's going to set people up as a deficit, not just for their hormones but overall health. So preconception care oftentimes is removing a lot of things, um, and then optimize those vitamin D levels, those fish oil levels and things, and keep them optimal while you're pregnant and afterwards. And then iron deficiency. So iron deficiency
Mm.
is very common in women who have heavy menstrual flow, and they need to make sure that the iron levels are optimal before they get pregnant and during pregnancy. Otherwise, they're going to be very tired and it's not going to be a fun ride. So those are the things that I see over and over again and my colleagues see. So I would check those out.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, I can see Connie is asking what is the difference between vitamin D2 and vitamin D3, because the doctor
Mm-hmm.
has put him on vitamin D2, not D3.
Yeah, so when you get vitamin D from the sun, your liver and kidneys convert it to active form of vitamin D3. Vitamin D2 is basically more what you would get from the sun, but then your body still has to convert it through the kidneys. So it's skin, liver, kidneys. Embryologically, your kidneys and your skin have a really close relationship, and your lungs and your gut. So um, I basically, if people aren't able to get a lot of sunshine, usually I give them vitamin D3. Vitamin D2, a lot of people have issues converting that to D3. although it depends. I mean, there are some autoimmune diseases that are very rare that you can't give any vitamin D, and they actually need low vitamin D because it causes more problems. And, those aren't conditions that I usually see. I mean, maybe one every 10 years or something. But basically, you need to know what your risks are, what your benefits are. You also don't want to overdose on vitamin D, just generally speaking. But most people don't prescribe vitamin D2 because they're not going to convert. The other thing is there's vitamin D receptors. So the VDR receptor, and Dr. Joe Pizzorno, who's the founder of Bastyr University, which is a naturopathic medical school in Seattle where I went. He's one of the 5 or 6 founders. His wife wrote a book about vitamin D and vitamin D receptors. I think it's pretty thin. You can get it online. So just look for the last name Pizzorno. And she was taking vitamin D and it did nothing. Her levels never came up. And you can do genetic saliva testing and you can find out if your VDR, your vitamin D receptor, is working well enough. And I've had some patients that even injecting vitamin, I used to do IM vitamin D injections in my clinic in Seattle for them or teach them how to do it. And even then their vitamin D3 levels were low. So ideally we're all getting sun, but we also have, mixed genetics. A lot of people have mixed genetics. And if you look at most of your ancestry genetics, were most of those people in a really sunny place where they were in, darker skin tones.
Yes.
Yeah, they need more vitamin D. It's keep it simple, So for me, I would need less vitamin D than someone, less sun exposure to get enough vitamin D than someone who has darker skin tone. That person would need to be in the sun longer and they can tolerate more sun exposure typically. And the sun has been really, there's way too much fear about the sun. I mean, sunscreens are estrogenic. So if you can just, cover your head with a hat, if you need to wear a long sleeve shirt after being in the sun for half an hour to an hour in the summer, and then that's fine. And then get out of the sun and try not to get burned, obviously. But I rarely use sunscreen, even natural sunscreens, because they feel like cake batter on your skin. So, yeah.
Okay, so that is to maintain your vitamin D3 levels.
What's that?
That's to maintain your vitamin D levels naturally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, you can just put lightweight, long sleeve, white shirt on and white shorts and, have a light blanket and put it over your legs or something and you won't get as much sun.
I think the FMCG companies really, scare us, the cosmetic company. They say, oh, the UV rays of the sun will damage your skin and this and that. And everybody is running after to buy the most expensive sunscreens available in the market. That's what we do.
Yeah. And
so
if you watch them,
many people will stop wearing it now.
Yeah. And there's some theory out there amongst people like the Weston Price Foundation and other groups out there of doctors. I'm not a dermatologist, but they're claiming, all kinds of doctors are claiming that if you have those toxins on your skin and then you're getting a burn still, you're basically baking those into your skin and getting more toxins into your body. And that's actually the combination is causing skin cancer from that. So it's usually these things are multifactorial. If the sun, if the sun was really bad, we would have developed differently. We all would probably be darker skinned and maybe have more hair on our bodies or something. So
yeah. So, but it also differs from where you belong to, whether you're in US or somewhere in Africa or in China or India.
Yeah.
I think place to place, it all differs. Yes. Okay. Doctor, I can see another question by recovering.esco. She has written that she has received HSCT for her MS in July 2019 and have been struggling with menopause. And she just turned 40. Can there be anything to help her in terms of hormones or something?
Well, she needs to get her urine levels of hormones tested, and then her blood levels most likely. But blood levels aren't really that helpful by themselves for, especially for women's hormones. So like a Dutch test from a practitioner is a little bit more affordable than when you order it directly from Dutch themselves. But a Dutch Complete or a Dutch Plus panel would be a good place to start. I mean, it's hard because I can't, they're not my patient, so I can't really say. I haven't seen them in person. I don't know all the details of what's going on, but definitely you want to optimize vitamin D levels immediately, whichever way you can, and then look into hormones, and balancing those hormones out are going to be key adjunctive therapy. So with like things like hyperbaric chamber, there's also a potential that things like phosphatidylcholine IVs may be beneficial with hyperbaric chamber combination. So I would look into those things and try to find a practitioner who you may have to find 2 different clinics to get all that done, but near you, or travel, once we can travel more, if you have to travel to another country, Germany and the US have a lot of these kinds of clinics. So if you're closer to Germany, then you may be able to find hyperbaric chamber and someone who does hormones there. There's a great endocrinologist who does a lot of hormones in Belgium. So I know that people are all over the world listening. So, but you want to get a full panel of what's going on with the blood hormones, brain hormones especially. So signaling hormones like FSH and LH, TSH, all would be good to check with your blood hormones. And that would be a good place to start. You can even get that from your conventional doctor, but a lot of conventional doctors don't understand these deeper connections. They're not bridging the gaps between MS and hormones. They're going to kind of look at you like, why do you want that done? So, yeah.
Doctor, like you said that some people we have to take vitamin D supplements. So what is the recommended amount of supplements that you would prescribe to anyone of vitamin D?
That depends on the person. But if we're talking about an MS patient, the upper safe limit of vitamin D per day, if somebody's really low, of vitamin D that I give daily is 4,000 to 5,000 IUs in the winter. At a latitude like where I'm at, which Northwest Montana, I'm almost in Canada, 60 miles south of Canada, or Seattle, which is also close to Canada. And we're not getting a lot of sun in either places. So typically 5,000 IUs. And then in the summer, typically 1,000 to 2,000 IUs if they're inside all the time. And if they're in the sun during the day, I usually just tell them don't take vitamin D that day in the summer. But most people are still inside most of the time, even in the summer, because they're working inside. So they've done research with people in San Diego and Florida in the winter, and none of them had any vitamin D in their blood. So even if you're down in Miami, Florida, or you're in San Diego or LA or Mexico, and you're working inside all day, or you're down on the equator and working inside all day, you probably have really low vitamin D, especially if you're a darker skin tone. And even if you're getting outside for half an hour in all your clothes, you're still probably not getting that much vitamin D. So a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about vitamin D. There's a great website called the Vitamin D Council, I believe it's called, and they do a lot of research about vitamin D. So I would go on there and look at it. The one thing about vitamin D is you don't want to overdose, and you want to take it with vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 helps prevent vitamin D from calcifying your arteries, especially your coronary arteries and arteries going into your brain and in your brain, which would be bad because you don't want to calcify those. So vitamin K2 plus vitamin D, especially if you're going to do higher than 2,000 or 3,000 IUs a day. And then there's genetic testing that can show, for example, I've had this genetic testing, and I use a company out of Canada called the DNA company, and you can just order the test yourself. I get my patients a discount, but the DNA company has this genetic test, and it tests your vitamin D receptors, but there's also a transporting protein, like for all hormones, that transports vitamin D around the body. And some people don't make enough of that transport protein. So you can buy vitamin D that's 50,000 IUs and take it once a week. And your vitamin D levels will be really high when you take it Sunday morning, and then they'll go low throughout the week because it's fat soluble. But if you don't have enough of that transport protein, you're not going to be able to carry that all around. So is that vitamin D even getting to all of your tissues and into your brain and, to all of your cells everywhere? Probably not. So what I was told after doing a consult with them is that I should take vitamin D lower dose morning and noon. So these things get more and more nuanced further down the rabbit hole you go of testing and figuring out your individualized health plan. So this is the difference between individualized medicine and doing a supplement quiz on some famous doctor who's written 10 books online, right? So those people are probably brilliant, and if you met with them in person, I'm sure they would have a lot of individualized information for you. But because of lawyers and laws and things, there's a lot of things we don't share on social media and websites because it can be misconstrued by somebody. And then if they go overdose on something like vitamin D and, have something happen, or they do some biohacking thing and they hurt themselves, they could sue that person. And the US especially is a very litigious culture for whatever reason. People have a lot of entitlement around who they're going to sue, even though they hurt themselves.
So this is a trend nowadays. Whatever happens, people just Google and just take everything by themselves.
Yeah, and I just saw someone ask about 10,000 IUs a day. So if someone's if you're below 30 and it's the middle of the winter and you're not near the equator, and you and your doctor decide that it's okay to take 10,000 IUs for a little bit and then drop it down to 5,000 IUs, I sometimes do that for people, especially during this whole viral situation we have going on in the world. You want to have optimal vitamin D levels just for general immune health. And vitamin D also helps prevent specific cancers like colorectal cancers and bone cancers potentially. So you may need to do like 5,000 IUs morning and noon. There's people that are saying there's research that vitamin D suppresses melatonin. So if you forget your morning dose, don't take it before bed, especially if you're already an insomniac. But just take it in the morning, and then you may need to take it morning and noon, even if you're just doing 1,000 to 2,000 IUs a day, because you may not be absorbing it all at once. So,
this is a very good point, that if you're insomniac, so don't take vitamin D before going to bed, which I think many people and doctors miss, while prescribing it. So this happens. So, doctor, like vitamin D, people are taking lots of like vitamin D and iron and all. So, for example, if someone is taking vitamin B12, why should someone take vitamin B12 on a daily basis? Or should it not be taken? What is the whole scene behind vitamin B12 specifically?
If you are older person, or you have a condition that affects your stomach and digestive system and small intestine, like IBS or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or any conditions of the intestines and the upper GI tract where intrinsic factor pulls B12 out of your food, that decreases your ability to extract B12 from your food, decreases as you get older. If you're younger and you're vegan or vegetarian, or if you're just not eating that much red meat or things like beef liver that are high in B12, then you definitely need to take B12, and it's non-negotiable. However, there's also genetics for B12 not getting activated to methylated B12, and methylated B12 is going to help you detox things through phase 2 detox in your liver. And that's how your liver works. It has a bunch of nutrient cofactors for phase 1 and phase 2 detox. So if you're not detoxing well through phase 2, then your hormones and all the toxins we're exposed to get stuck in these intermediary metabolites, medications as well. And that can make you feel worse from hormone replacement therapy. So everybody on hormone replacement therapy needs to be taking B complex or methylated B vitamins, activated B vitamins. And not high dose. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need to take it like 3 times a day, but take it in the morning with food. Don't take B vitamins on an empty stomach. They can make you nauseous if you have a sensitive stomach. But I think most people who have brain stuff going on, they should be taking B vitamins all the time. It's really great for the brain, and your brain needs it, especially a lot of different forms of vitamin B12 would be ideal. It's water soluble, and methylated folate, so activated folate, is more likely to cause something like anxiety if you overdose, which I've experienced. But you want to get these genetic things tested and then figure out, like, okay, what supplements do I actually need to be taking long term? And some of these things you can just take weekends and vacations off and just take during your regular most stressful days. If your all days are most stressful, then probably need to take it every day. If you're an entrepreneur like me, that's probably the case. So I would definitely get more testing and dig deeper, but generally speaking, most people could benefit from, getting at least, 5 milligrams of methylated B12 a day. Athletes are injecting methylated B12 usually twice a week, IM injection. So if you're wanting to be as healthy as you can be in high performance, and you're concerned about brain health and all these other things I already talked about, probably want to be taking methylated B12 and maybe some other B12 forms. Like there's a bunch of other ones, but basically probably want to be taking that long term, or get beef liver and eat beef liver if you can eat that stuff.
Okay. Doctor, I have to say, we have been talking for around 35 minutes now. We can just go on for 10 more minutes. We have a lot of questions that we'll quickly try to cover as much as possible. I think everybody's just enjoying this session, and this is a very knowledgeable session for everyone. So I think we'll just take as many questions as we can. Okay, I saw one question about if someone who is obese, does hormone has a role to play in that?
Well, it's a question about being obese.
If someone does hormone deficiency lead to obesity?
I think it's the other way around, typically. So what happens is, before people get obese, is they develop metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance, which eventually becomes prediabetes and diabetes, or can. Then basically they can get dementia from the insulin resistance if it's really bad. Diabetes type 3 diabetes is what we call dementia. And they can start having, a lot of people have memory deficits when they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And dementia is already set in 20 years. Alzheimer's is already set in 20 years before people are diagnosed usually. So this is, there's genetics for it too. So if you have family members who have Alzheimer's or dementia, then you're at higher risk. But as far as obesity, obesity is like a good way to put someone at risk for basically all metabolic things, all neurodegenerative conditions, because there's a lot of inflammatory organ fat, we call it visceral fat, basically strangling your organ function. So that's not the fat that you want to have. Like, we all need a certain amount of body fat, a certain percentage to be healthy. You don't want to have low body fat either, because then your hormones get shut off. So all these things in moderation. But if someone is obese, their healing times can be lower. So they're going to have decreased growth hormone, endogenous growth hormone production. They're going to have memory deficits, most likely, bad joints, low hormones across the board. They may have had low thyroid. I guess I would just back up and I would say thyroid could be part of the cause of obesity. But usually it's things like they're working too much, they're stressed, they're not exercising, then they don't sleep enough, then it throws thyroid, then it throws off the adrenals, then it throws off all the other hormones, and it's just this cascade that is, everything's going sideways instead of in a healthy direction. And, don't drink soda all day and things like that, obviously. But most people in the US and developed nations aren't eating real food. They're eating this manufactured foods that have long shelf life, or fast foods. And they don't have time to cook for themselves and know how to cook for themselves. So they're microwaving that and all kinds of stuff. So the obesity epidemic is concerning. It should concern everybody. and higher chance of things like stroke, all-cause mortality, and heart attack happen if your total testosterone is below 350 nanograms per deciliter. So
Okay.
if no matter what's going on with your health, if your testosterone's that low, I would be very concerned, because you're basically like a walking time bomb. You know, people that I've met have looked at people walking to a room and say, wow, that person looks really unhealthy. I'm concerned that they may have a heart attack or stroke soon. And it's like you can see how unhealthy people are with their skin and how they look outside and how they walk, all these things. And you should be concerned about your family members who are presenting that way, because people comment that things like functional medicine and naturopathic medicine is expensive, and I think it can be, depending on what your experience has been. But most of those people haven't had to pay for a family member's medical bill for heart disease or overnight stay in the ICU or heart attack recovery in a hospital. So those things are very expensive. But yeah, obesity is a huge problem. It's mostly lifestyle, and then it throws off everything else, and it's just a domino effect from there. So yeah, get your thyroid checked, but get T3 checked, not just T4. Get your active thyroid hormone checked. And thyroid medication with a good personal trainer and nutritionist may be the root cause there, and that would be a good place to start. But if you have the funds, go deeper, is usually what I tell people.
So it is anyway said that MS patients, they have a risk of developing thyroid maybe later in their lives. Maybe also it can be a big effect of some of the DMTs they are taking. So this has to be checked regularly and seen if nothing is going wrong with the thyroids. Okay. I can see one question by Pat's Fandier. She has written, what hormones can I take if I'm having my periods every 2 weeks? So is this something with the hormones?
I can't tell you over social media what to do as a treatment, but you need to go get all the lab testing I've already mentioned.
Yes, absolutely. Doctor, I got an interesting question here about prebiotics and probiotics. So what are your thoughts on that?
Most people have decreased gut biodiversity. All stool tests today are in their beginning stages. The science of stool testing is in the very beginning stages. A lot of this research, I mean, we have less than 20 years ago, we sequenced out the human gut microbiome and the human genome and all that stuff. So we're kind of like, as one of my friends said at a lab test company, he's also a naturopathic doctor. We're kind of like, with all this stuff, with this gut testing and stuff, which I do use in my clinic with patients and myself, and it's helped a lot. So I'll just say that first. But secondly, we're kind of like kids with a chemistry set when it comes to this.
I see Dr. Darren Ingles' live, and he's saying hello to you and me. Hi, doctor.
Hi. Yeah, so I think I would take anything you get tested with a grain of salt, because it's just one sample, and all lab tests are photographed in time. So in medicine, we look for trends. So if somebody has a lot of gut problems, that one person may actually get aggravated by prebiotics, and they maybe get more gas and bloating, and they may need to take, if it's something that's high in fiber, usually is a prebiotic, or fermented foods, start at a lower dose and maybe dose it, less frequently, one meal a day. Make your own kimchi at home, or sauerkraut, or things that you like eating, and have just a smaller sample. Because I've had patients with gut problems, and that's aggravated it more, and it's really peculiar stuff that can happen with gut dysbiosis. But it's multifactorial. So it's your cortisol level, it's your thyroid levels, helps gut motility. Thyroid medication, levothyroxine, can affect your gut motility. So, and it can actually cause or be part of the cause of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then the other thing, Sorry, the sun is starting to get in my eyes, so I'm just going to move over here. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I was,
yeah. The other thing I was going
and
to say,
in fact, you were holding the phone for so long and you were roaming outside. I'm sorry for this.
oh, it's
You're
fine.
getting tired. This is the last
Yeah.
question we are taking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, as far as probiotics, most probiotics do nothing. But
Okay.
I think generally speaking, from all the scientists that I've spoken to about this that are either microbiologists or infectious disease experts, is that basically what's happening with the probiotics that actually do something, like the soil-based probiotics and other things out there, I won't name brands and I have no affiliation with them, is that basically with those probiotics is what they are doing is they're helping with the inflammation process in the gut. And it's,
Mm.
if you stop taking them, then they're not going to do that anymore. So you want to make sure you're taking the right ones for you that are actually going to do something, and they help with like the cytokine storm in the gut. What they're not doing is that, like if you eat a lot of yogurt that has lactobacillus in it, you may get more lactobacillus in your gut over time. But and like prebiotic foods help with that because they're feeding the bacteria that food and those short chain fatty acids and things from the fermentation. But what they're what the a lot of the probiotics that you would buy over the counter are, you're not basically increasing lactobacillus and bifido a lot of the times anyway with those products in the gut, and that's what I've been told over the years. So a lot of people claim like, oh, I'm taking these probiotics and it's helping my gut, and
Yes.
there's some transitory situation that's happening there where you are getting maybe some relief of symptomology, or you're decreasing gut inflammation from what's going on, but you got to work on
Mm.
the root cause. If you come back from
Absolutely.
traveling to a third world country and for 5 years you have gut problems because you got a protozoal parasite, or you ate sushi and got some kind of parasite from eating raw food because you have issues with low hydrochloric acid because you're a stress ball, then you got to kind of unravel all that. And a lot of people, especially in the U.S. and other developed countries, think that their country has no parasites or
Mm.
issues with these things. But a lot of patients with chronic health problems have mold, parasites, and Lyme, and they kind of come together as this trifecta from hell. Excuse my French, but it sucks. So unraveling that, and it doesn't mean a parasitic worm. It could be, but sometimes it's your body, your gut immune system is so deficient from years of illness and stress from that illness that you're not making enough hydrochloric acid to kill that stuff in your food. So, and you also have to question, if you get a stool test and it comes back with something and it doesn't match your symptomology, I would find maybe another stool test company out there, because a lot of stool test kits don't test for roundworms, which is a very common, or
Yes.
the nematode parasites that you find in a lot of people, and a lot of people just have roundworms. There's some people out there saying like, why aren't we deworming humans, but we deworm like racehorses and other animals like dogs and cats more frequently. So it's something to think about. Obviously, those animals are exposed to different things than us, but especially if you're around livestock and you're
Mm.
around
Absolutely.
cats and you live with a cat or dog in your home, and if that dog is licking or eating dog poop and then licking your face or something, you know, so
Yeah.
it's pretty gross. But there's a
Yeah, it
lot of
sounds so
people who
gross.
do that stuff, and they don't think twice about where their dog's tongue has been, and it's licking their face all over their
Oh my
mouth.
God. I
So
was actually talking to my parents about having a pet at home. After listening to this, I have to rethink about it.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of people sleeping with their dog too, and um, there in certain warmer climates there's squirrels year round, and the dogs. I've talked to vets about this because I have a 1-year-old puppy, and they eat the squirrel poop, so they're getting exposed to parasites all the time. So if you're not deworming them once a month or giving them the anti-parasitic chewable tablet once a month, they could potentially be exposing, not only getting really sick themselves, but exposing you. So a lot of diseases happened when we started living closer to animals, livestock and dogs and stuff.
Yes.
So as soon as we domesticated animals more, horses, cows, dogs, etc., cats, all of our chances of illnesses that we were never exposed to, and you can even, like, there's the whole acronym TORCH in pregnancy for all the infectious things that can ruin a pregnancy. So, you know, I think when we talk about something like MS, you know, it's like, okay, there's the gut-brain connection. So why are we talking about the gut here, you know? And then what's going on with that person's gut? Did that gut dysbiosis start after they had an antibiotic treatment when they were 12 years old and they've had gut problems the rest of their life? Probably. So unraveling all of that. And a lot of times what happens, unfortunately, in the community that I'm in, the more natural healthcare practitioner community, is that they give them probiotics and prebiotics and they call it good and they say, good luck. There's been no deeper dive into their history and what's really going on and the gut immune system. And then they just say, you know, because I've been seeing naturopathic doctors for 22 years and I was given probiotics for probably 15 of those years and lactobacillus and bifido and didn't notice anything. So, and then if you eat half a jar of kimchi and you get blown up like a balloon in your gut, it's kind of like, okay, well, why this is supposed to be good for me? What's going on here? What am I feeding down there or what's going on that's causing this? So.
Yeah, oh my God. I can see someone writing, say, yucky, something nice to end this, please.
Yeah.
That's a reality. Reality is always harsh, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor, for this lovely session. And I'm sorry you have been holding the phone. Your arm must have started aching already. And you're having all the sun on your face. Too much of vitamin D for you today.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll make me stronger in that arm.
Without sunscreen, that's good.
Yes.
So I can say we all have learned so much from you today, this was a very knowledgeable and a very, very inspiring session for us. Thank you so much for your time. And I think, there were so many questions, we could answer them all, but, maybe we can have the session sometime again later on and answer all the questions pending here today.
Definitely. Yeah, that would be great. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.
Yes, have a great weekend. Thank you, Doctor. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And this was such a fabulous session. Oh my God, there was so much things to learn from Dr. Sam. He really gave us in-depth knowledge of certain things that we did not even know about. I'm so sure you all have enjoyed this session and stay in touch with more such lovely sessions coming up. And I could see someone had asked me where can they find the details of the campaign that we have started, which is We Switch MS. That is right on the page on our IGTV as well as on our story. Please go there and check the details of the campaign or just DM me and I will let you know about entire detail. Thank you so much for joining us today and have a lovely weekend. Thank you.